The Boston Fertility Center stood like a beacon of hope and heartbreak on a crisp October morning in 2025, its sleek glass facade catching the golden light of dawn. Amara Johnson, a 28-year-old Black American woman, paused at the entrance, her deep brown skin glowing softly under the autumn sun. Her fingers, trembling slightly, clutched her teaching degree, the ink still fresh on the cream paper, a testament to years of late nights and unwavering determination. At 28, Amara had dreamed of shaping young minds at Riverside Elementary. But today, those dreams bowed under the weight of a choice she never imagined making. Her sister, Nia, also Black American and just 25, lay in a hospital bed across town, her life tethered to machines that beeped with relentless urgency. Nia's rare autoimmune condition required a surgery their family's maxed-out insurance couldn't cover, and their parents, struggling to make ends meet, had no safety net to offer. The October wind whipped around Amara, tugging at her braided hair and scattering amber leaves across the clinic's steps, each one a reminder of how quickly life could unravel. Inside, the clinic buzzed with quiet efficiency, its walls adorned with photos of smiling babies, each a promise Amara wasn't sure she could bear to see fulfilled. The receptionist, a kind-faced woman named Clara, greeted her warmly. "Ms. Johnson, Dr. Ellis is ready for you." Amara's heels clicked against the polished floor as she followed Clara down a corridor, her heart pounding with every step. The consultation room was intimate, with soft green walls and a wooden desk that felt more like a friend's study than a medical office. Dr. Ellis, a woman in her early 50s with silver-streaked hair and a gentle demeanor, gestured to a chair. "Amara, thank you for coming in," she said, opening a folder. "You're interested in our egg donation program?" Amara's hands tightened in her lap, her dark eyes meeting Dr. Ellis's. "Yes," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "I need to know everything. The process, the risks, the compensation." The last word felt heavy, almost crude. But Nia's medical bills loomed like a shadow over her life. At 25, Nia was too young to face such a precarious fate, her vibrant spirit dimmed by hospital gowns and IV drips. Amara had promised her little sister she'd find a way, and this was the way. Dr. Ellis's expression softened. "Of course. Our clinic has one of the highest success rates in the country. The process takes 4 to 6 weeks, involving hormone treatments and egg retrieval. We screen recipients carefully to ensure your gift goes to someone who truly values it." She slid a document across the desk. "The compensation is substantial, especially for someone with your health and educational background. $15,000. Enough to make a real difference." Amara's breath caught at the number. It was enough for Nia's surgery, follow-up care, and to give her sister a fighting chance. Dr. Ellis continued, her tone shifting slightly. "There's something else. We have a high-priority client, a single father, waiting for a donor with your profile. He's faced significant challenges in his journey to start a family. If you proceed, your eggs would likely go to him." Amara's brow furrowed. "Him?" she asked, surprised by the personal detail. Dr. Ellis nodded, choosing her words carefully. "Sometimes, knowing your gift will change someone's life can make this decision feel clearer." Across Boston, in a sleek office tower overlooking the Charles River, Ethan Caldwell, a 35-year-old white American man with steel blue eyes and a commanding presence, sat at his desk, his pale skin catching the glow of the setting sun. As the CEO of Caldwell Technologies, he'd built an empire from nothing, and his name was synonymous with innovation in educational software. But the world didn't see the nursery he'd designed in his penthouse, the children's books he collected, or the ache that filled his chest every time he passed a playground. Diagnosed with a rare genetic condition in his 20s that rendered natural fatherhood impossible, Ethan had endured years of failed fertility treatments, each one chipping away at his hope. Today, a single sheet of paper from the Boston Fertility Center lay before him, bearing a simple code, AJ202410. His fingers traced the numbers, as if they held the secrets of his future. This anonymous donor, this stranger, was his last chance at the family he'd always dreamed of. At the clinic, Amara stared at the paperwork, each form a step toward an irreversible choice. Medical history, legal releases, confidentiality agreements. Each signature felt like a piece of herself given away. The final document bore the code AJ202410, her donor identification number, the only link to whatever future her decision might create. "What you're doing is extraordinary," Dr. Ellis said softly as Amara signed the last page. "It's a gift of life, in more ways than one." Amara nodded, her throat tight. As she left the clinic, the Boston skyline shimmered in hues of gold and pink. She dialed Nia's number, her voice stronger than she felt. "Hey, little sis," she said when Nia answered, her tone weak but hopeful. "I found a way. Everything's going to be okay." Amara didn't know that her choice had already set a chain of events in motion that would intertwine her life with Ethan's in ways neither could imagine. As she walked away, the wind carried her resolve forward, whispering of miracles yet to come. What would you do in Amara's shoes, facing a choice between dreams and family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story's tugging at your heart, give it a like and hit that subscribe button to join us for the next chapter of this incredible journey. Your support keeps these stories alive. Winter had settled over Boston like a soft veil, casting a pale glow through Riverside Elementary's classroom windows. Amara Johnson sat at her desk, grading her first grader's spelling tests. The quiet hum of the radiator was a faint comfort against the December chill. At her side, a half-eaten apple rested next to a stack of papers, its tart scent mingling with the familiar smell of crayons and chalk dust. But tonight, her focus wavered. A wave of nausea rolled through her, the third that week, joining other signs she'd tried to dismiss: missed periods, an odd craving for pickles she usually despised, a fatigue that clung to her like a shadow. At first, she'd blamed stress. Nia's surgery, funded by her egg donation 3 months ago, had been successful, but the recovery was grueling, and Amara's teaching schedule left little room for rest. Yet, as she pressed a hand to her stomach, a deeper instinct whispered a truth she wasn't ready to face. In the small bathroom of her modest apartment later that evening, Amara stood before the sink, her breath shallow. 3 pregnancy tests lined the counter, their blue lines stark and undeniable. Positive. Her knees buckled, and she sank to the tiled floor, the cool surface grounding her as her mind spun. "This can't be happening," she whispered, clutching the blue fertility clinic bracelet she hadn't removed since her donation. Its code, AJ2024 show, etched into her memory. The Boston Fertility Center had been clear. Her eggs were harvested, not fertilized or implanted. The hormone treatments, the retrieval procedure, it was supposed to be straightforward, a selfless act to save Nia. How could she be pregnant? Her thoughts raced back to her final clinic appointment, a chaotic day. A harried nurse had mentioned a procedural adjustment due to a scheduling mix-up, urging Amara to sign additional consent forms in a rush. And had something gone wrong? Had they mistakenly inseminated her? Across town, in his penthouse overlooking the glittering Boston skyline, Ethan Caldwell sat in his dimly lit office, the weight of another disappointment heavy on his shoulders. A letter from the fertility clinic lay open on his desk, its words cold and clinical. The first attempt, with his donor's eggs, code AJ202410, had failed. The doctors recommended another try, citing a high success rate with the donor's profile. But Ethan's hope, worn thin by years of setbacks, flickered weakly. He ran a hand through his dark hair, his eyes drifting to the nursery down the hall, its crib empty, its walls painted with clouds that seemed to mock his dreams. He'd poured his heart into that room, a quiet rebellion against the diagnosis that had shattered his vision of fatherhood. Another failure loomed, and he wondered if he should let go. But something, a whisper of intuition, urged him to wait, as if the universe held a secret he couldn't yet grasp. Back in her apartment, Amara's laptop glowed as she scoured medical websites, searching for answers. Fertility clinics, she read, occasionally faced errors, but accidental pregnancies were rare, almost impossible. The procedure involved harvesting eggs, not implanting embryos. Yet, one article caught her eye. A case where a clinic's staffing shortage led to a mix-up, fertilizing eggs with the wrong sperm and implanting them in the donor during a botched procedure. Her heart pounded as she recalled that rushed day at the clinic, the nurse's hurried explanation of adjustments. Had they fertilized her eggs with the recipient's sperm, her anonymous client, and implanted them in her by mistake? The code AJ22410 linked her to a man out there, someone planning a family, unaware that she now carried what might be his child. The thought was dizzying, a miracle and a complication she couldn't comprehend. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her spiral. A text from Nia glowed on the screen. Physical therapy went great. Doc says I'm ahead of schedule. You're my hero, sis. Amara's eyes stung with tears, a mix of joy for Nia's progress and dread for her reality. The $15,000 from the clinic had saved Nia. But now Amara faced a new challenge that could upend her life, career, and carefully laid plans. She typed a quick reply, forcing a smile into her words. So proud of you, Nia. Keep shining. But as she set the phone down, her gaze fell back to the bracelet, its code a silent accusation. She needed to contact the clinic, demand answers. But the fear of what she might learn held her back. What would the recipient think? Would he want to know? And how could she face him, a stranger tied to her by this impossible mistake? The next morning, Amara arrived at Riverside Elementary, her mind a fog of questions. Principal Harper's voice crackled over the intercom as she arranged her classroom for career day. Ms. Johnson, here is a reminder. Our guest speaker, Ethan Caldwell, arrives at 9. You'll be his liaison for the first grade session. Amara froze, the name unfamiliar but heavy with significance. A tech billionaire, Harper had said, known for educational software that inspired kids like hers. Her stomach churned, not just from morning sickness, but from a premonition she couldn't shake. Was this man connected to her donation? The code AJ22410 burned in her mind, a thread linking her to a future she hadn't chosen. As she arranged her students' desks in a semicircle, she wondered if today would bring answers or more questions. What would you do if you discovered a truth that turned your world upside down, like Amara's impossible pregnancy? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this twist has you hooked, tap that like button and subscribe to follow Amara and Ethan's journey. Your support fuels these stories. We can't wait to hear what you think next. The Riverside Elementary classroom buzzed with anticipation as Amara Johnson arranged her first graders' desks into a semicircle, the morning light filtering through frost-etched windows. It was career day, a highlight for her students, but Amara's mind was elsewhere, tangled in the shock of her confirmed pregnancy. The blue fertility clinic bracelet, code AJ22410, sat snug beneath her sleeve, a constant reminder of the impossible truth she carried. Her stomach churned, not just from morning sickness, but from the weight of Principal Harper's announcement. Ethan Caldwell, tech billionaire and CEO of Caldwell Technologies, would be their guest speaker. The name sparked no recognition, yet an uneasy premonition settled in her chest. Was he the man tied to her donor code? She pushed the thought aside, focusing on her students' eager faces and their colorful posters proclaiming dreams of becoming astronauts and veterinarians. At precisely 9, Principal Harper ushered Ethan into the classroom. He stood in the doorway, his charcoal suit tailored to his lean frame, his steel blue eyes scanning the room with a warmth that caught Amara off guard. His presence filled the space, not with the arrogance she'd expected from a CEO, but with a quiet intensity, as if he carried a story too heavy for his polished exterior. "Ms. Johnson," he said, extending a hand, his voice deep and steady. "Thank you for hosting me." Their hands met, and a jolt, like static electricity, passed between them. Amara's breath hitched, her dark eyes meeting his, and for a fleeting moment, the world narrowed to just them. Ethan's grip lingered a fraction too long, his brow furrowing as if he sensed something familiar. "Welcome, Mr. Caldwell," Amara managed, smoothing her navy dress to steady herself. "The kids are excited to hear about your work." She gestured to the semicircle, where her students sat wide-eyed, clutching drawings and questions scribbled in crayon. Ethan knelt to their level, his smile genuine as he began. "I grew up in foster homes, moving from place to place," he said, his tone soft but resonant. "Books and learning were my constants. I built my company to give kids like you tools to chase your dreams." The children leaned forward, captivated, as he described interactive software that turned math into adventures and history into stories. Amara watched, amazed at how effortlessly he connected with them, answering little Lily Brooks' question about robots with a playful grin. As the session unfolded, Amara caught Ethan glancing at her, his gaze lingering when he thought she wasn't looking. It wasn't predatory, more like he was trying to solve a puzzle. She felt seen in a way that both thrilled and unnerved her, her secret pregnancy pulsing like a second heartbeat. During a break, Ethan approached her desk, studying a student's rainbow drawing. He said, "You've created something special here," his fingers tracing the paper's edge. "These kids, they trust you completely." Amara smiled, her guard softening. "They need someone to believe in them. I try to be that person." Ethan's eyes met hers, something vulnerable flickering across his face. "You sound like someone who knows what it's like to need that belief." Before she could respond, the bell signaled the end of the session. Ethan hesitated, then babbled, "Miss Johnson, Amara, would you join me for coffee tomorrow to discuss educational initiatives, maybe collaborate with my company?" His tone was professional, but his eyes held a spark of something more. Amara's rational mind screamed to decline. Her pregnancy, the clinic's error, the unknown connection to this man. But her heart, stirred by his sincerity, betrayed her. "Sure," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Bell Tower Cafe, after school?" He nodded, a smile breaking through. "Perfect." As Ethan left, Amara busied herself tidying the classroom, her thoughts a whirlwind. She adjusted her sleeve, ensuring the clinic bracelet stayed hidden, but it caught on her cardigan, the code AJ22410 flashing briefly. She didn't notice Ethan pause in the hallway, his gaze catching the bracelet before he turned away, his mind racing. In his car, he pulled out the clinic letter from his briefcase, the code AJ22410 staring back at him. His foster care years had taught him to trust his instincts, and something about Amara, her warmth, her strength, felt like more than coincidence. Had the clinic's failed attempt been a lie? Or was something bigger at play? Back in the classroom, Amara's student Lily lingered, clutching a stuffed giraffe. "Ms. Johnson," Mr. Caldwell was calm, Is he coming back? Amara smiled, her heart heavy. Maybe, Lily. He's got a lot to share. Amara's hand drifted to her stomach as the girl skipped away, the faint swell a secret she couldn't ignore. Tomorrow's coffee meeting loomed, a chance to learn more about Ethan, or to confront the truth she wasn't ready to share. The empty classroom felt like a stage where two lives had just brushed against each other, unaware of the thread tying them together. What would you feel about meeting someone who seems to see right through you, like Ethan and Amara? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Did their spark surprise you? If this moment's got you curious, hit that like button and subscribe to catch the next twist in their story. Your voice keeps this journey alive. The Bell Tower Cafe, nestled between Boston's historic brick buildings, glowed with the warmth of afternoon sunlight filtering through frosted windows. Amara Johnson sat at a corner table, her fingers tracing the worn edge of her fertility clinic bracelet, code AJ0241 cell, hidden beneath the sleeve of her loose-fitting sweater dress. The faint swell of her stomach, now undeniable at 3 months pregnant, pressed against the fabric, a secret that made her heart race as she waited for Ethan Caldwell. Their previous career day encounter had left her unsettled. The electric spark of their handshake, the way his steel blue eyes seemed to see beyond her carefully guarded facade. She'd agreed to this coffee meeting to discuss educational initiatives, but the truth of her pregnancy and its mysterious connection to the clinic loomed like an unspoken guest. Ethan entered, shedding his corporate suit for a cashmere sweater and dark jeans, his presence softer, yet no less commanding. A dusting of December frost melted in his dark hair, and Amara fought an urge to brush it away, her cheeks flushing at the thought. "I hope I haven't kept you waiting," he said, sliding into the chair across from her, his smile warm but curious. "Not at all," Amara replied, gesturing to the open notebook on the table, a prop to steady her nerves. "I was jotting down ideas for your software project." Ethan's gaze lingered on her, as if searching for something beyond her words. "You're dedicated," he said, his voice carrying a note of admiration. "Your students are lucky." Their conversation flowed effortlessly, weaving from Amara's teaching philosophy to Ethan's vision for accessible education. She shared stories of her classroom, little Lily Brooks mastering a new word, Tommy Martinez's endless questions about space. Ethan leaned forward, captivated, then offered a glimpse of his past. He admitted that foster care wasn't easy, his fingers circling the rim of his coffee mug. Different homes, different rules. But learning, books, ideas, that was my anchor. It's why I built my company, to give kids that same stability. Amara nodded, her heart softening. His vulnerability mirrored her own, the sacrifices she'd made for Nia. "That's beautiful," she said softly. "It's like you're giving them what you needed most." The moment deepened, their eyes locking, and Amara felt the weight of her secret pressing against her chest. She wanted to tell him about the clinic, the pregnancy, the impossible mistake. But fear held her tongue. What if he were the recipient? How could she explain carrying his child? Instead, she shifted the topic. "Nia's recovery has been my miracle," she said, her voice catching. 3 months ago, I wasn't sure she'd make it. The donation paid for her surgery." Ethan's expression softened, but his eyes flicked to her wrist as she reached for her herbal tea. "No coffee?" he asked, a teasing lilt masking a sharper curiosity. "Caffeine's off the menu for now," Amara said, forcing a smile, her hand instinctively covering her stomach before she caught herself. Ethan's gaze followed the movement, his brow furrowing. Before he could press further, her phone buzzed. A text from Nia. "Emergency. New test results. Can you come to the hospital?" Amara's heart sank, her hands fumbling as she gathered her things. Her bracelet caught on her purse strap, the code AJ202410 flashing briefly in the sunlight. Ethan's sharp intake of breath stopped her cold. "That bracelet," he said, his voice low, urgent. "I've seen that code before." Amara froze, her pulse thundering. I have to go," she stammered, tucking the bracelet away and bolting for the door. She fled into the chilly evening, leaving Ethan staring after her, his mind racing. In his pocket, his phone buzzed with an email from the Boston Fertility Center. Subject line: "Procedural error notice. Urgent." He opened it, his hands trembling as he read. During a staffing shortage on the day of Amara's procedure, her eggs were mistakenly fertilized with his sperm and implanted in her due to a clerical error in the rushed scheduling. The clinic expressed regret, offering legal consultation, but Ethan barely registered the words. Amara, the woman whose smile had haunted him since yesterday, was carrying his child, a miracle born from a mistake. Back at her apartment, Amara paced, her thoughts a storm of panic and possibility. Nia's text had been a false alarm, a minor test anomaly, not a crisis. But the cafe encounter left her reeling. Ethan had seen the bracelet and recognized the code. Did he know? And if he did, what would he think of her? A teacher, a stranger, now tied to him most intimately. She sank onto her couch, her hand resting on her stomach, the baby's presence both a comfort and a question. Tomorrow, she'd face her classroom, Ethan's lingering gaze, and the truth she couldn't outrun. Have you ever had a moment where a glance changed everything, like Ethan's glimpse of Amara's bracelet? Share your stories in the comments below. If this twist has you on edge, give us a like and subscribe to see how their paths collide next. Your support lights up this tale. The public garden's paths were dusted with frost, the late afternoon air sharp as Amara Johnson hurried toward the swan boats, frozen in their winter docks. Her heart pounded, not just from the chill, but from the weight of Ethan Caldwell's message. Meet me at the public garden, 6:00 p.m. His sharp intake of breath at the cafe, when he'd glimpsed her fertility clinic bracelet, code AJ22410, echoed in her mind. He knew something, and she couldn't run from it anymore. Her loose sweater dress concealed the slight swell of her pregnancy, but the truth felt exposed, raw. She spotted Ethan by the boats, his cashmere sweater clinging to his frame, his steel blue eyes searching the horizon until they landed on her. The intensity in his gaze made her steps falter, but she pressed forward, clutching her coat. "Amara," Ethan said, his voice low and rough with emotion. "How long have you known?" She froze, her breath catching. "Known what?" she asked, though her trembling hands betrayed her. Ethan stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. The bracelet. AJ2024110. It's my donor code. I saw the clinic's email, and there was an error. Are you pregnant?" Tears welled in Amara's eyes, spilling over as she nodded. "I found out a week ago," she whispered, 3 positive tests. "The clinic. They said it was impossible. They harvested my eggs, but during that rushed appointment, they must have fertilized them with your—" She trailed off, the words sperm too clinical for the miracle inside her. "I didn't know until now." Ethan's face shifted from shock to wonder, his hand hovering near her arm, as if afraid to break the moment. "You're carrying my child," he said, his voice breaking. "Our child." Amara's tears fell faster, her hand instinctively covering her stomach. "I would tell you, Ethan, but how do you say it? Hi, I'm your egg donor, and by some mistake, I'm pregnant with your baby." Her voice cracked, a mix of fear and relief. Ethan's expression softened, But before he could respond, Amara's phone rang. Nia's ringtone, sharp and urgent. She answered, her eyes still on Ethan. "Nia, what's wrong?" Her sister's voice was panicked, weaker than in weeks. "The hospital is called Amara. My latest tests found a complication. They're talking another surgery. Can you come?" Amara's heart sank. The weight of her sister's illness crashed back. "I'll be right there," she promised, ending the call. She looked at Ethan, her vision blurring. "I have to go. Nia, she needs me." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Let me drive you." Amara hesitated, and then agreed, the urgency overriding her instinct to pull away. The drive to Massachusetts General was silent, the city's lights blurring past as Amara's thoughts churned. Ethan's presence beside her was a strange comfort, his hands steady on the wheel despite the storm in his eyes. At the hospital, they found Nia in her room, her usually vibrant spirit dimmed by pain. She managed a weak smile, her braided hair framing her face like a halo. "You didn't have to rush, sis," she said, her voice teasing but strained. "Who's this?" Her eyes flicked to Ethan, curious despite her fatigue. Amara hesitated, then said, "This is Ethan Caldwell. He's helping." Nia's brow raised, but she didn't press. The doctor, a brisk woman named Dr. Patel, explained the situation. Nia's surgery had healed well, but scar tissue was causing complications, requiring a less urgent but necessary procedure. Dr. Patel said we'll schedule it within the week, her tone reassuring. With proper care, she'll recover fully. Amara squeezed Nia's hand, her mind flashing to the months of worry, the donation that had saved her sister, and now this new challenge. Ethan stood quietly by the window, his presence a steady anchor. As Dr. Patel left, Nia turned to Amara, her eyes sharp despite her weakness. "You look like you're carrying the world, not just my bills. What's going on?" Amara's throat tightened, but Ethan spoke first, his voice gentle. "Ms. Johnson, I'll give you some space." He stepped into the hallway, but his words lingered. "You're not alone anymore." Amara turned to Nia, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm pregnant, Nia. It's his. The clinic messed up, fertilized my eggs, and now—" Nia's eyes widened, then softened. "Oh, Amara, that's why you've been so quiet. But that guy out there, he's not running. That's something." Amara nodded, tears pricking her eyes. Nia, always the dreamer, added, "You know, I used to imagine us opening a bakery together, you and me, before all this. Maybe this baby's a new kind of dream." Outside, Ethan leaned against the hospital wall, the clinic's email burning in his mind. The error, a clerical mix-up during a staffing crisis, had given him a chance he'd thought impossible. But it wasn't just the baby that stirred him. It was Amara. Her strength, warmth, and how she held her sister's hand. Society might question their connection as teachers and CEOs, and their worlds are so different, but they don't care. He'd spent years building an empire, but this felt like something worth fighting for. As Amara emerged, her eyes red but resolute, Ethan met her gaze. "Whatever happens," he said, his voice firm, "we'll figure this out. Together." Amara nodded, the weight of his promise grounding her. But as they left the hospital, the city's pulse seemed to hum with questions. How would they navigate this miracle? And what would the world say when it learned the truth? Ever faced a moment where truth and fear collided, like Amara and Ethan's confrontation? Share your thoughts in the comments. If their story's pulling you in, hit that like button and subscribe to see what's next. Your support keeps this miracle unfolding. The morning sun barely pierced the gray clouds over Boston as Amara Johnson hurried through Riverside Elementary's parking lot, her scarf shielding her face from a biting December wind. Once a sanctuary, her classroom now felt like a stage under a spotlight. The Boston Fertility Center's error had leaked to the press overnight, igniting a firestorm of headlines. Tech billionaire's miracle baby scandal rocks Boston. Reporters swarmed the school's entrance, their cameras flashing as they shouted questions. "Ms. Johnson, did you know Ethan Caldwell was the father? Was this planned?" Amara clutched her bag, her heart racing, the blue bracelet with code AJ202410 hidden beneath her sleeve. The truth of her pregnancy, confirmed just days ago, was no longer hers alone. Inside, Principal Harper's office was a tense refuge. Her kind eyes met Amara's with sympathy, but her words carried weight. "The board is concerned, Amara. The media attention, it's disrupting classes. Parents are worried about their children's privacy." Amara's stomach twisted from morning sickness and the threat to her career. "I'd never let this affect my students," she insisted, her voice steady despite the sting. Harper sighed, gesturing to the window where reporters gathered. "It already has. We're considering early paid leave until this is resolved." Amara's breath caught, the word leave sounding like exile. Teaching was her lifeline, her way of making a difference. Losing it now, with Nia's new surgery looming, felt like a betrayal of everything she'd fought for. Across town, Ethan Caldwell stood before his board of directors in a sleek conference room, the city skyline muted behind him. His usually commanding presence was frayed, shadows under his steel blue eyes betraying a sleepless night. Chairman Reynolds slapped a newspaper onto the table, its headline blaring, "Caldwell's Secret Child, a Corporate Crisis? Our stock's down 12% in pre-market trading," Reynolds barked. "Partners are pulling out, demanding answers. This is a disaster, Ethan." Ethan's jaw tightened, his mind flashing to Amara's tear-streaked face in the public garden, her hand on her stomach, their child. "The disaster," he said, his voice steel, "is the clinic's negligence. They fertilized and implanted Amara's eggs by mistake. This isn't about stock prices. It's about my family." The room erupted. Board member Ms. Lang scoffing. "Family? A teacher you just met, carrying a baby from a medical error? That's a PR nightmare." Ethan's palm hit the table, silencing them. "You don't know her. She's stronger than anyone in this room, sacrificing everything for her sister." His words carried the weight of his foster care past, where loyalty was earned, not assumed. But whispers lingered. Some board members questioned Amara's motives, wondering if a teacher from a modest background had seen an opportunity in a billionaire's misfortune. Ethan ignored them, his focus shifting to a live news feed on his tablet. Reporters mobbing Riverside Elementary, Amara shielding her face. At the school, Amara faced her colleagues in the staff room, their glances mixed with sympathy and suspicion. Ms. Carter, a veteran teacher, leaned close, her voice low. "Amara, people are talking. Some think you targeted Caldwell, knowing his wealth." The accusation stung, a sharp reminder of the scrutiny she'd face as their story unfolded. Amara said, "I donated eggs to save my sister," her voice firm. "This was a mistake, not a plan." Ms. Carter's expression softened, but the doubt lingered in the air. Outside, parents murmured in the hallway, some supportive, others wary of the media circus engulfing their children's school. Ethan's phone buzzed. Marcus, his assistant, with urgent news. Reporters are at Massachusetts General, trying to get to Nia's room. Ethan's blood boiled. He stormed out, barking orders to Marcus. "Get security to the hospital. Clear them out. No one bothers Amara's sister." At the hospital, Amara arrived to find Nia shaken but safe, with security guards stationed at her door. Nia's smile was weak but warm. "You didn't tell me you're famous now, sis," she teased, her braided hair catching the fluorescent light. "Those reporters asked if you planned this with Caldwell. I told them you'd die before scheming like that." Amara squeezed her hand, grateful for Nia's fierce loyalty, a trait they'd shared since childhood summers spent dreaming of adventures beyond their tight-knit neighborhood. Ethan burst into the hospital room, his tie loosened, his usual polish frayed. "Are you both okay?" he asked, his eyes flicking between Amara and Nia. Amara nodded, her heart swelling at his protectiveness. "Thank you," she said softly, their gazes locking. Nia watched, her sharp eyes catching the unspoken bond. "She said you two need to talk," shooing Ethan toward the hallway. "Along with Amara," she added. "He's here, fighting for you." "That's not nothing." Amara's throat tightened. "I know. But the world's watching, Nia. My job, your health, everything's at stake." In the hallway, Ethan faced Amara, his voice low. "I won't let this destroy you. The school, the press, we'll handle it." Amara's eyes searched his, finding resolve, but also fear. "They might suspend me, Ethan. And you. Your company's bleeding. What are we doing?" Ethan stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. "We're facing this. Together." His promise echoed their public garden moment, but now the world's eyes were on them, ready to judge every step. Ever felt the world turn against you when you're just trying to hold on, like Amara and Ethan? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this storm's gripped you, hit that like button and subscribe to see how they fight back. Your support fuels their story. The elevator to Ethan Caldwell's penthouse hummed softly, its polished doors reflecting Amara Johnson's nervous fidgeting as she smoothed her dark green dress, chosen to conceal her growing pregnancy. It was July 21st, 2025, and the Boston skyline sparkled beyond the glass, a glittering contrast to the storm brewing in her heart. The media frenzy over the fertility clinic's error, her accidental pregnancy with Ethan's child, had upended her life, threatening her teaching career and exposing Nia's hospital room to reporters. Ethan's invitation to dinner felt like a lifeline, a chance to find solid ground. As the doors opened, the scent of homemade chicken soup greeted her, warm and unexpected, drifting from an open kitchen where Ethan stood, sleeves rolled to his elbows, an apron tied over his casual shirt. "You cooked?" Amara called, her voice lighter than she felt, her braided hair catching the soft glow of pendant lights. Ethan looked up, his steel blue eyes bright with a shy smile. "My foster mother, Mrs. Lee, insisted a man should know his way around a kitchen," he said, stirring the pot. She said, "No one trusts a soul who can't feed himself." Amara laughed, the tension in her shoulders easing as she slid onto a stool at the kitchen island. He poured her sparkling water with fresh mint, its crisp scent calming her nausea. "I thought soup might be gentle on you," he added, his gaze flicking to her midsection, a silent acknowledgement of their shared miracle. Their conversation unfolded like the meal, warm, unhurried, and revealing. Amara shared stories of Nia's vibrant childhood, how they'd spent summers plotting to open a bakery, and how Nia dreamed up recipes for lavender cupcakes while Amara sketched the shop's sign. Amara said she was always the dreamer, and her voice was soft and loving. Even in the hospital, she's talking about nursing school once she's back on her feet. Ethan listened intently, his spoon pausing. "She sounds like you, resilient." He hesitated, then opened up about his past. "My infertility. It's a genetic condition, diagnosed when I was 22. Rare, untreatable. Every procedure failed until your donation." His voice caught, the weight of years of disappointment surfacing. "I built that nursery down the hall thinking it might stay empty forever." Amara's heart ached, seeing the vulnerability behind his polished exterior. "Show me," she said, almost a whisper. Ethan led her to a room bathed in moonlight, its walls painted with drifting clouds, a crib gleaming in one corner, shelves lined with children's books. The care in every detail spoke of a hope he'd clung to despite the odds. "It's beautiful," Amara breathed, her hand resting on her stomach. The baby kicked, a flutter that felt like a promise. Without thinking, she took Ethan's hand, guiding it to the spot. His eyes widened, wonder transforming his face. "I felt that," he said, his voice barely audible. "That's our baby." The moment shattered as Ethan's phone rang, the board chairman's name flashing. He ignored it, but Amara stepped back, reality crashing in. "We can't pretend the world's not watching," she said, her voice trembling. "The school's talking suspension. Your company's stock is tanking." Ethan's jaw tightened, but his gaze stayed steady. "Let them talk. I care about you, about this." He paused, then blurted, "Marry me, Amara." Her breath caught, the words hanging between them like a spark. "What?" she managed, her heart racing. "Marry me," he repeated, his voice raw. "Not for the press, not for the baby, for us. I see a family with you, in this room, in a life we build together." Amara's mind reeled. The proposal was reckless and beautiful, but the world outside loomed. Reporters questioning her motives, colleagues whispering about her intentions, and the public already casting her as an opportunist in their high-profile saga. "Ethan, we barely know each other," she said, her voice shaking. "And the media, they're tearing us apart. Nia's surgery, my job." Ethan stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers. "I know it's fast, but you're the kind of person who'd give everything for someone you love. I want to be that person for you." Before she could respond, a news alert buzzed on both phones. Billionaire's baby drama. Teacher's secret exposed. The headline stung, amplifying the whispers she'd heard from Miss Carter, the doubts from parents. "I need time," Amara whispered, her eyes pleading. Ethan nodded, pain flickering across his face. "Take all the time you need. I'll drive you home." In the elevator, silence enveloped them, their phones buzzing with notifications they weren't ready to face. At her apartment door, Ethan caught her hand. "Whatever you decide, that nursery, it's ours, whenever you're ready." Amara squeezed his hand, then stepped inside, the weight of his words and the world's judgment pressing down. Have you ever faced a choice between your heart and the world's noise, like Amara's moment with Ethan? Share your story in the comments. If this leap of faith hooked you, hit that like button and subscribe to see where their hearts lead next. Your support keeps their story alive. The Boston Four Seasons private dining room was a haven from the media storm raging outside, its mahogany table gleaming under soft chandelier light. Amara Johnson sat beside Ethan Caldwell, her hand resting lightly on her stomach, the faint kick of their baby grounding her amidst the chaos. It was late July 2025, and the headlines, still screaming about the fertility clinic's error that led to her pregnancy, had only grown louder since Ethan's impulsive proposal in his penthouse nursery. Reporters hounded Riverside Elementary, and Ethan's company faced shareholder unrest. Tonight, they'd gathered a team to reclaim their story. Marcus, Ethan's trusted assistant, two sharp-eyed lawyers, Lena Brooks, a crisis manager with a knack for authenticity, and surprisingly, Principal Harper, whose presence signaled hope for Amara's teaching career. Ethan squeezed Amara's hand under the table, his steel blue eyes steady despite the strain of the past days. "Before we strategize," he began, his voice firm, "and I needed to clarify something. Amara isn't just the mother of my child. She's my fiancée. Amara's heart fluttered. The word was still new, sealed in a quiet moment at the hospital after Nia's latest tests. She'd said yes, not for the cameras, but for the promise in his eyes. Lena raised an eyebrow, her pen pausing. When did this happen? This morning, Amara said honestly, her braided hair catching the light. And it's not for show. It's for us. Lena nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. Authenticity. I can work with that. Principal Harper spoke next, her tone measured. The school board's reconsidered, Amara. Your dedication to your students is undeniable. We see this as a chance to teach about family and unexpected paths. You're not on leave. Amara exhaled, relief washing over her. Teaching was her anchor, and keeping it felt like a victory against the whispers of colleagues like Ms. Carter, who'd questioned her motives. Lena leaned forward, outlining their plan. An exclusive interview with Sarah Wells, a journalist known for human interest stories that cut through sensationalism. We'll tell the truth, Lena said. Amara's sacrifice for her sister, Ethan's dream of a family, and the clinic's mistake that brought you together. We'll frame it as a modern love story, not a scandal. Marcus slid a document across the table, his voice steady. The clinic offers a settlement. Full responsibility for the error. Compensation for Amara and Nia's medical costs. And new protocols, such as mandatory staff training and oversight to prevent mix-ups. They want a non-disclosure agreement. Ethan's jaw tightened. No, he said firmly. No hiding. We tell our story, but we mean it right. Amara nodded, her resolve matching his. Nia's the reason I donated, she said. If we're open, it honors that choice and shows the world this baby isn't a mistake. Lena jotted notes, her eyes gleaming. That's the angle. Sarah Wells will eat it up. The conversation shifted to Nia, who'd insisted on joining via video call from her hospital room. Her face appeared on a laptop screen, and her smile was bright despite the IV in her arm. Amara saved my life with that donation, Nia said, her voice strong. She gave up a piece of herself for me. If you tell this story, make sure people know she's a hero, not some gold digger. Her words cut through the room, silencing the lawyer's murmurs. Nia's fierce loyalty, honed through years of shared dreams, those childhood summers plotting their bakery, gave Amara strength. And Ethan, Nia added, a teasing glint in her eyes. You're not half bad for a CEO who showed up out of nowhere. Ethan chuckled, the tension breaking. Thanks, Nia. I'm trying to keep up. The team finalized details. The interview would air in 2 days, focusing on love and resilience. Ethan's company would announce a donation to Riverside Elementary, reinforcing his commitment to education and deflecting corporate criticism. But the public's reaction weighed on Amara. Social media buzzed with mixed sentiments. Some praised her selflessness. Others cast her as an opportunist, their words tinged with assumptions about a teacher climbing into a billionaire's world. They'll judge us, Amara said quietly, her hand tightening on Ethan's. Let them, he replied, his voice fierce. We know the truth. This, he gestured to her stomach, is ours. As the meeting wrapped, Lena pulled them aside. The public loves a love story, but they'll want a wedding. Something small, real, soon. Amara and Ethan exchanged glances, their minds turning to the public garden, where their truth surfaced. No media circus, Ethan said firmly. Just us, family, friends. Amara nodded, her fingers brushing the bracelet with its code, AJ20241TEL. Soon, she agreed, feeling the baby kick as if in approval. Boston's skyline shimmered outside, a reminder of the world waiting to dissect their story. But tonight, they chose transparency, a defiant step toward owning their miracle. Ever faced a moment where you had to choose truth over silence, like Amara and Ethan? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If their bold move has you rooting for them, hit that like button and subscribe to see how their story unfolds. Your support makes this journey shine. The morning sun filtered through Riverside Elementary's windows, casting long shadows across Amara Johnson's classroom as she arranged her students' desks, her braided hair catching the light. It was late July 2025, and the media storm over her accidental pregnancy with Ethan Caldwell's child, caused by the Boston Fertility Center's error, had reached a fever pitch. Headlines screamed across Boston: teacher and tech titan, love or scandal? Reporters lingered outside the school, their questions a relentless hum. But Amara focused on her students, their eager faces her anchor amidst the chaos. Principal Harper's call to her office at 7 a.m. loomed, a summons tied to the board's concerns about the media's disruption. Her hand brushed her stomach, and the baby's faint kick reminded her of the life she was fighting for. In Principal Harper's office, the air was heavy with tension. "Amara," Harper began, her tone gentle but firm. "The board's worried about the media circus. Parents are calling. Some support you. Others fear their kids being photographed." Amara's heart sank. The threat of suspension was still raw from their last meeting. "My students come first," she said, her voice steady. "I'd never let this affect them." Before Harper could respond, little Lily Brooks slipped into the office, clutching a crayon drawing of Amara teaching, a heart above her head. "Ms. Johnson, you're my hero," Lily said, her stuffed giraffe tucked under her arm. "You make us feel safe." Amara's eyes stung, and Harper's expression softened. "The board's reconsidered," Harper said. "Your dedication speaks for itself. You're staying, with support to manage the media." Outside, parents gathered in the schoolyard, their voices a mix of concern and admiration. Mrs. Rivera, Tommy's mother, approached Amara. "You gave everything for your sister. That's real. Don't let the gossips win." But others, like Mr. Klein, whispered doubts, their glances hinting at assumptions about Amara's motives with a billionaire like Ethan. Social media amplified the divide. Posts praised her selflessness, but others questioned her intentions, some tinged with skepticism about a teacher entering a high-profile romance. Amara stood tall, her resolve hardened by Lily's drawing and Mrs. Rivera's words, but the scrutiny stung. Across town, Ethan faced his board at Caldwell Technologies, the conference room stark under fluorescent lights. Chairman Reynolds waved a tablet, stock charts plummeting. "This scandal's costing us millions," he snapped. "Shareholders want answers, Ethan." Ethan's steel blue eyes flashed, his usual composure frayed. "The clinic's error created this, not me. And Amara, she's not a scandal. She's my fiancée." Ms. Lang, another board member, leaned forward. "The public's digging into her life, her finances, her reasons for donating. Are you ready for what they'll say?" Ethan's jaw tightened, memories of foster care fueling his defiance. "They'll see a woman who saved her sister's life. That's the truth." He announced the Caldwell Johnson Educational Foundation, a new initiative to fund underserved schools and medical aid, inspired by Amara's sacrifice. The board paused, some nodding, others skeptical, but Ethan's conviction shifted the room. At Massachusetts General, Amara visited Nia, whose recovery was progressing, and her spirit was brighter despite the looming surgery. Nia's hospital room was filled with get-well cards from Amara's students, a testament to her impact. "You're trending online, sis," Nia teased, scrolling her phone, her braided hair mirroring Amara's. "Half the internet's rooting for you, half thinks you're after Ethan's money. Ignore the haters." Amara smiled, touched by Nia's fierce loyalty. a bond forged in childhood dreams of their bakery, where Nia's laughter had been the sweetest ingredient. "I always wanted to help people," Nia said, her voice softening. "That's why I'm applying to nursing school once I'm out of here. You showed me what sacrifice looks like." Ethan arrived, his tie loosened, his presence a steady anchor. He said the board's coming around, his hand brushing Amara's. "The foundation's a start. It shows we're more than headlines." He turned to Nia, who grinned. "You're not bad for a suit, Ethan. Keep looking out for my sister." Ethan chuckled, but his eyes held Amara's, a silent promise. Outside, Marcus, his assistant, had cleared reporters from the hospital. Still, the news feed on Ethan's phone buzzed with comments, some calling their story a fairy tale, others questioning its authenticity. Mrs. Lee, Ethan's foster mother, called, her voice warm. "I raised you to fight for what matters, Ethan. Amara's worth it. Tell your story, but tell it with heart." As Amara and Ethan left the hospital, the city's pulse seemed to carry their resolve. The interview with Sarah Wells loomed, a chance to shape their narrative. Amara's career was secure, but the public's judgment and Nia's health remained challenges they'd face together. "We're not hiding," Amara said, her voice firm, the baby's kick echoing her strength. Ethan nodded, his hand finding hers. "Together," he promised, the world's noise fading against their shared truth. Ever faced judgment, but found strength in unexpected support, like Amara and Ethan. Share your story in the comments. If their fights got you cheering, hit that like button and subscribe to see their next move. Your support keeps their truth alive. The fluorescent lights of Massachusetts General's hospital room cast a soft glow over Amara Johnson's bed, where she sat propped against pillows, her braided hair framing a smile that belied her recent health scare. It was late July 2025, and the media storm surrounding Amara Johnson's pregnancy, born from a fertility clinic's error with Ethan Caldwell's donor code, AJ222410, had only intensified. Amara sat beside her sister, her hand resting on her stomach. The baby's steady kicks gave a quiet reassurance amidst the chaos. The Boston skyline twinkled beyond the window, but the weight of public scrutiny, from skeptical colleagues to divided social media, pressed heavily on her. Ethan's proposal in his penthouse nursery lingered in her mind, a reckless promise she hadn't fully answered. Tonight, in this hospital room, everything was about to change. Nia squeezed Amara's hand, her voice warm but teasing. "You're glowing, sis, but you look like you're carrying a secret bigger than that baby." Amara managed a shaky laugh, her eyes darting to Ethan, who stood by the door, his steel blue eyes soft with concern. He'd just arrived, his tie loosened, his presence a steady anchor after a day of battling his board's demands. "Nia's right," he said, stepping closer, his voice low. "You don't have to carry this alone." Amara's throat tightened. The memory of his proposal, raw, heartfelt, flooding back. She'd asked for time, overwhelmed by the media's accusations and her job's uncertainty. But his unwavering support at the hospital, protecting Nia from reporters, had shifted something in her. Ethan knelt beside her, pulling a simple silver ring from his pocket, its understated elegance catching the light. "Amara," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "Marry me, not because of the headlines or the baby, but because I see a life with you, a family, a home, a future built on trust. I love you." The words hung in the air, raw and undeniable. Nia's eyes widened, a grin spreading as she clutched her blanket. Amara's breath caught, tears prickling as she met his gaze. "Yes," she whispered, the words spilling out before doubt could stop it. "Yes, Ethan." He slid the ring onto her finger, their hands trembling together, the baby kicking as if in celebration. Nia clapped softly, her laughter breaking the moment's intensity. "About time, you two. I want cupcakes at the wedding." The room felt lighter, but reality intruded as Ethan's phone buzzed with a message from Marcus, his assistant. The clinic's final settlement offer had arrived. Ethan said they're covering Nia's surgery and follow-up care, scanning the document. They've also committed to a national review of their protocols, new training and stricter oversight. No non-disclosure agreement. Amara nodded, relief mingling with resolve. "That's a start," she said. "They need to own this mistake, not hide it." The clinic's public apology, promised for the next day, would close that chapter, allowing them to focus on their future. Their attention turned to the upcoming interview with Sarah Wells, set to air tomorrow. Sarah's draft, shared via email, wove their story beautifully. Amara's sacrifice for Nia, Ethan's foster care struggles, and dream of family. The clinic's error as a serendipitous gift. "She's captured us," Amara said, reading the draft on Ethan's tablet. "Not the scandal, the heart." Ethan nodded, his hand covering hers. "We'll tell the world about love, not drama." But social media's reactions, visible on Nia's phone, were mixed. Some called their story inspiring. Others questioned Amara's intentions, their comments laced with assumptions about her climbing into Ethan's elite world. "Let them talk," Nia said fiercely. "You gave me life, Amara. This baby, Ethan, it's your turn to live." Nia's words carried the weight of their shared past. Summers dreaming of their bakery, nights whispering about futures beyond their struggles. "I'm applying to nursing school because of you," Nia added, her eyes bright. "You showed me how to fight for what matters." Amara's heart swelled, her sister's strength mirroring her own. Ethan, listening quietly, spoke up. "I've arranged the best surgical team for Nia. They're reviewing her case now." Amara turned to him, overwhelmed. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he interrupted, his smile soft. "Whatever it takes, right?" They planned a small wedding in the public garden, set for 2 weeks away, with only family, friends, and Amara's students. "No circus," Ethan said, echoing their earlier resolve. "Just us." Amara agreed, her fingers tracing the ring. Its weight is a promise of partnership. As they left Nia's room, the hospital corridor felt less daunting. The city's pulse a backdrop to their shared purpose. The interview would be their chance to reclaim their narrative, to show the world a love that transcended error and judgment. But as they entered the night, Amara knew the road ahead. Public reactions, Nia's surgery, their new life, would test their courage. Ever had a moment where love pushed you to face the world, like Amara and Ethan's proposal? Share your story in the comments. If their courage has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe to see their truth shine. Your support keeps this love story alive. The Boston Public Garden shimmered under a canopy of fairy lights, the early August 2025 evening casting a golden glow over the rose arches, framing a small wedding setup. Amara Johnson stood in the Four Seasons bridal suite, her ivory dress flowing around her 5-month baby bump, its delicate fabric catching the soft light. Her braided hair was adorned with tiny white flowers, a nod to the lavender cupcakes Nia once dreamed of baking. The weight of the past months, the fertility clinic's error, the media storm, the threat to her teaching career, faded as she gazed out at the garden, where her students held handmade signs. "Love makes a family." Ethan Caldwell waited below, his steel blue eyes fixed on the path where she'd soon appear, his heart steady despite the world's lingering scrutiny. Nia wheeled closer, her recovery from her second surgery evident in her bright smile, though she still used a cane for longer distances. "Stop fussing with the dress," she teased, her voice warm. "You're perfect, sis." Amara laughed, squeezing Nia's hand, their bond a lifeline through the chaos. A copy of the Boston Globe lay on the table, its headline bold: Love, Medicine, and Miracles. A Teacher and CEO's True Story. Sarah Wells' article, published that morning, had gone viral, weaving Amara's sacrifice for Nia, Ethan's foster care journey, and the clinic's mistake into a tale of love transcending circumstance. Public comments flooded in. Most celebrated their story, though some still whispered doubts about Amara's motives, their words stinging, but no longer defining her. Mrs. Lee, Ethan's foster mother, entered, carrying a small blue box. "Something borrowed," she said, fastening a silver bracelet around Amara's wrist, its inscription reading, "Whatever it takes." "Ethan had it made," Mrs. Lee explained, her eyes kind. "This is to remind you that the best paths are rarely planned." Amara's heart swelled, the bracelet a mirror to the clinic's band she'd once worn, now replaced by this symbol of their choice. The clinic had issued a public apology that day, admitting their error: accidental fertilization and implantation due to a staffing shortage, and committing to a national safety overhaul, including mandatory training and third-party audits. The settlement covered Nia's surgery, and that chapter was closed with accountability. Marcus, Ethan's assistant, knocked, his usual calm tinged with emotion. "It's time," he said, holding up his tablet. A live feed showed Amara's students lining the garden path, their signs vibrant. "Best teacher and CEO love story ever. Lily Brooks's contribution." "Principal Harper's idea," Marcus added. The parents agreed. "Your story's teaching them about love." Amara's eyes misted, the community's embrace a balm after weeks of judgment. She descended to the garden, her students cheering, Lily waving her stuffed giraffe. Ethan stood beneath the rose arch, his suit impeccable, his smile radiant. Their vows were simple, profound. Amara promised to build a family on love and choice. Ethan vowed to cherish the home they'd create, starting with her smile in a classroom. As they kissed, sealing their union, rose petals rained down, Lily's spontaneous contribution tucked in her pockets. The small crowd, Nia, Mrs. Lee, Marcus, Principal Harper, cheered, their voices drowning out the distant hum of reporters kept at bay by security. Social media buzzed with support, with fans calling it a modern fairy tale, though some comments still probed Amara's intentions, which were a reminder of the world's lingering gaze. At the Four Seasons Conservatory reception, Nia toasted them, her cane steady as she stood. "Amara gave me life," she said, her voice clear. "Now she's building one with Ethan. Here's to dreams that find you." Her words echoed their childhood bakery plans, now transformed into her nursing school ambition, inspired by Amara's strength. Sarah Wells unveiled a surprise, a children's book, The Unexpected Gift, inspired by their story, its gentle tale of love and serendipity, destined for Amara's classroom and nursery. "For your family," Sarah said, handing them a copy. Amara's hand found Ethan's, the baby kicking as if in agreement. The world outside might still whisper, but their love felt unassailable here, surrounded by those who believed in them. As the evening wound down, Amara leaned into Ethan, the garden's lights twinkling like stars. "We did it," she whispered. "We told our truth." Ethan kissed her forehead. "And it's just the beginning." Ever felt love triumph over the world's doubts, like Amara and Ethan's wedding? Share your moment in the comments. If their union has you smiling, hit that like button and subscribe to see their family grow. Your support lights up their story. The nursery in Ethan and Amara Caldwell's shared penthouse glowed under soft lamplight, its cloud-painted walls casting a dreamy haze over a crib ready for their arrival. It was early August 2025, and Boston's skyline sparkled beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, a quiet backdrop to the new life Amara and Ethan were building. Amara stood beside Ethan, her braided hair loose, her hand resting on her 5-month baby bump, the silver bracelet inscribed with "Whatever it takes" glinting on her wrist. A framed ultrasound from Dr. Ellis lay on a shelf, its note reading, "For the parents who proved miracles rise from mistakes." The Boston Fertility Center's error, Amara's accidental pregnancy with Ethan's child, code AJ202410, had transformed from a scandal into a story of love, sealed by their wedding 2 weeks ago in the public garden. Amara traced the ultrasound's edges, her heart full. "I walked into that clinic to save Nia," she said softly, her eyes meeting Ethan's steel-blue gaze. "I never imagined it would lead to this, to us." Ethan wrapped an arm around her, his lips brushing her forehead. "You're my miracle," he murmured, his voice thick with the weight of their journey. The media storm had quieted since Sarah Wells' Boston Globe article, which painted their story as a modern fairy tale. A teacher's sacrifice, a CEO's dream, a mistake that became a family. The public response was overwhelmingly warm, though some online comments still probed Amara's motives, and their skepticism was a faint echo of earlier doubts. Yet, her students' handmade signs from the wedding, "Love makes a family," and the community's embrace had drowned out the noise. Amara had returned to teaching at Riverside Elementary, her classroom vibrant with her students' energy. Principal Harper had implemented media protocols, ensuring privacy, and parents like Mrs. Rivera rallied behind her, their support a testament to her impact. Clutching her stuffed giraffe, Lily Brooks declared, "Ms. Johnson, you're our hero forever." Inspired by Amara and Ethan's story, the school board had approved a partnership with Caldwell Technologies, integrating Ethan's educational software into their curriculum. Amara's once threatened career now stood firmer, her classroom a space where love and learning intertwined. Naya, fully recovered from her second surgery, visited the penthouse that evening, and a confident stride replaced her cane. "Look at this place," she teased, her braided hair swinging as she admired the nursery's bookshelves, stocked with the unexpected gift, Sarah Wells' children's book inspired by their story. "I'm applying to nursing school next month," Nia announced, her eyes bright. "You showed me how to fight, Amara. I want to help others like my nurses did." Her words carried their childhood spirit, when they dreamed of a bakery filled with laughter and lavender cupcakes. Now, Nia's new dream was a legacy of Amara's sacrifice, a ripple of their story's impact. Ethan unveiled a package revealing a plaque for the Caldwell Johnson Educational Foundation, which was launched that week. 10 schools in underserved areas, he said, his voice proud. "Learning tech, medical aid, and support for families like yours once was." Amara smiled, her fingers tracing the plaque's letters. "Like a particular teacher who needed help to save her sister," she teased, her eyes sparkling. Ethan knelt, pressing a kiss to her bump, the baby kicking in response. "This is why we fought," he said. "For them, for us." The foundation's launch had silenced his board's doubts, with even Chairman Reynolds championing its mission, inspired by their resilience. Beyond their circle, the public's view had shifted. Social media posts celebrated their foundation, with teachers and parents sharing stories about how Amara's classroom inspired their communities. A few skeptics lingered, but their voices were drowned by support from Mrs. Lee's warm endorsement to students like Tommy Martinez, who designed a science project about family bonds. The clinic's national safety overhaul, announced alongside their apology, ensured no one else would face their error, a final closure to that chapter. Amara and Ethan stood in their nursery, the ultrasound glowing beside the unexpected gift, their story now a beacon for others. As they gazed at their baby's image, Amara felt the final pieces of their journey fall into place. "Whatever it takes," she whispered, echoing the bracelet's inscription. Ethan's arm tightened around her. "It's about choosing each other, every day." The baby kicked again, a silent agreement, as Boston glittered outside, its lights a promise of new beginnings. Their story, born from a mistake, had become a legacy of love, proving the heart sees what plans cannot. Ever found a new beginning in an unexpected place, like Amara and Ethan's family? Share your story in the comments. If their journey inspires you, hit that like button and subscribe to celebrate their miracle. Your support keeps their legacy alive.